UFC Houston, these are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. I'm looking forward to talking about each of the matchups on this card. So make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on and make sure you share the video too. And also note, I will be live for the entire card. It's Saturday, February 21st, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Don't miss that fight companion. And let's get into the first fight on the card. We got Carli Judice versus Juliana Miller. I think this one's pretty obvious. Carli Judice just show out in a big way against Juliana Miller. Judice is a high-level striker. She's got good cardio. She's got good volume. She's got power, accurate with straight shots, defensively sound in the grappling. Really reminds me of like a new generation Holly Holm on the rise here at 125 versus, Juliana Miller, who's got decent jiu-jitsu. Decent if she's able to get you down and take you back, but the striking differential is crazy. Judice has like legit stand-up skills with a finishing ability that's kind of rare in the women's divisions. You look at the most recent W's, knockout against a dangerous Brazilian woman. Nicole Cagliari's tough, savage Brazilian. She stops her. The body work is nice with the kicks, snapping kicks to the body, kicks up high, straight punches to the head. She can mix it up in the clinch as well. She can stop the takedowns. Quick knockout with the head kick against Yunesi Dubin, who had some hype coming in from a big upset on Contender Series. Even her losses. Split decision against Gabriela Hernandez, who finished Kong Wang. Ernesta Carrasqueta split decision. That could have easily went Carli Judice's way. So you got a prospect that I think has a ton of potential, and I'll say breaks into the top 10. She's young at 26. By 28, I see her as a top 10 contender in the UFC flyweight division. On the opposite end, I don't know if I see Juliana Miller on the roster in 2 years from now. She got a win in her last fight against Ivana Petrovic. Petrovic is, not very good. She's an okay enough striker, I guess. And yes, Juliana Miller gets it on the cards. All right. Juliana Miller's got some grappling. Her stand-up, she's got pressure, but she doesn't really have accurate technique, right? And then loses to Luana Santos, knocked out. Veronica Hardy dominates her. And at the time, what was surprising because, Juliana Miller won the Ultimate Fighter 3.5 years ago. She came into the UFC with hype and having, a notable ground game. But it's been rocky waters since then. And she's fighting a legit fighter to keep an eye on. I don't think Juliana Miller is able to survive the striking onslaught. She's going to shell up. She's too slow twitch on the feet. Kind of like, female equivalent to like the Ricky Tercio style, but without that same durability. I think Judice is going to look sharp here. And I think she's showing out in a big way. I think Carli Judice, she does make it look crispy on the feet. And I think she gets it done by knockout. I think she's going to stop Juliana Miller. I could see it being like a big body kick and then into flurrying shots. And Juliana Miller's like game, set, match. Now, the odds for the fight have Carli Judice pretty wide on the favorite status at -450. But you have no disagreement from me on that end. I think that she's going to go out and dominate. And I expect it to be a stoppage. We don't have the over-unders available just yet because we are, an extra week out from the card with no UFC this coming Saturday at the time of the recording. It being the next weekend. They don't have the odds for overs and unders yet. But I see money lines, which is good at least. -450, Carli Judice, stoppage. I think inside of the first 2 rounds, I expect her to really do damage to Juliana Miller. I think she's going to stop the takedowns. The speed difference is going to be crazy on the feet. The strike technique is going to be crazy. And Carli Judice is going to do bad things to Juliana Miller. So we're going Judice and we're going knockout. Next fight on the card, we got Yadir Del Valle versus Jordan Leavitt. And it's interesting because this fight is a featherweight fight. Jordan Leavitt has been a lightweight throughout his UFC career, and he's taking on a physically imposing, strong, explosive grappler at 145. I'm going Yadir Del Valle. I think for Jordan Leavitt, it'll end up being a mistake going down in weight. It's the lighter man skill thing. And then when it's in the grappling, I got Jordan Leavitt, who just simply is a slow twitch fighter. What I mean, if you don't know the example I'm giving, he's, relatively slow in the striking department. His grappling is positional control, but not explosive techniques, not ferocious ground and pound. He's a guy that can control you, and, he's beaten guys in the UFC. It's not like Jordan Leavitt is a complete bum. Trey Ogden, split decision. He stopped Victor Martinez. That was actually a good striking performance. And last one, subbed up an aging Kurt Halaba. The decent wins at lightweight. Chase Hooper made it look easy against him, and then obviously Patty the Batty subbed him up. So he has lost in grappling before. Going down in weight, I don't think solves the issue here. Jordan Leavitt is just not explosive, and I think Yadir Del Valle could rock him on the feet. If Del Valle wants to showcase hands and it becomes a striking fight, Del Valle can certainly knock Jordan Leavitt out with some big overhand shots that he likes to throw and sitting in the pocket and ripping power. The thing is, Del Valle is a bullying grappler, though. He takes you down, he breaks you, he beats on you, and he subs you. And I think Jordan Leavitt is going to be no different than the rest. Del Valle is an undefeated, savage Cuban prospect. Now, he is coming off of the win against Isaac Dalgarian, where Isaac Dalgarian threw the fight. 100%. Threw the fight against him. Doesn't mean Del Valle wouldn't have pulled it off. And it's not going to change the prediction here because he had an opponent that saw he was a massive favorite, got in with the wrong people, and decided, let me lay down for it. At the end of the day, Del Valle goes out, dominates him. Sure. You know what? We'll even eliminate that fight. Made it look easy as hell against Conor Matthews, and then outdogged the tough Brazilian and Antonio Monteiro on the Contender Series. And at 29, I think Del Valle is just too much of a force here. I think he's going to get on top of Jordan Leavitt and beat him up a little bit. I think Jordan Leavitt probably gets finished on the ground. I could see ground and pound, back take into the strangle. I think a rear naked choke is incoming for Yadir Del Valle. And yeah, I'm going to pick him to finish Jordan Leavitt. At 145, I'm interested to see what Leavitt looks like. Maybe it's going to be a good career move in the long run to keep him on the roster. He's been win-loss for a little while now. But I just don't think, a Yadir Del Valle fight goes well at all. This is a terrible matchup for him. And down in weight, it's worse. I think Jordan Leavitt having to cut that extra weight off, he's dealing with a guy that's going to be so much quicker. I'm talking about Leavitt's problem being speed. The solution to that is not normally to go down a weight class where the fighters are a lot faster than you, I think that Yadir Del Valle beats him up, finishes him off. One-way traffic type of fight. Let's see. The odds -350 for Yadir Del Valle, +285 for Jordan Leavitt. I got to look. Let's see if there's any odds available for the over-unders. No, there's nothing. I'm just going to assume they don't have any. Maybe the main event, but nothing there yet. -350. Understandable tag. Yeah, Leavitt's got more UFC fights and got some UFC wins, and he's fought, Patty Pimblett, Chase Hooper, decent guys. But ultimately, his wins are, against mids. And it's not that Del Valle's beat anybody good. I'm not saying that. But I don't see Jordan Leavitt being able to, secure dominant position on the ground and beat this assassin of a Cuban fighter. It just doesn't make any sense. We got fast twitch versus slow twitch. We got explosive power versus not. And now Leavitt's going to drop a weight class. I think he gets manhandled. And yeah, Del Valle to get it done inside of the distance. I think submission makes sense, and a rear naked choke really jumps out to me. But there's a possibility he wants to show the heavy hands off, throw some thunderous punches, and just beats the shit out of Jordan Leavitt with ground and pound. I do think he's going to get him down and beat him up. But if it is a striking fight by some chance, I think that Del Valle wins a striking fight against Jordan Leavitt too. Next fight on the card, Jean-Paul Lebosnoyani versus Phil Rowe. Phil Rowe stepping in on short notice. I believe he's replacing the Austin Vanderford side. My pick is going to be Lebosnoyani to win. If you guys have been watching the channel for a long time, you guys know Savage Dog Lock, Angelusa, Phil Rowe. The clip is a cult clip on the MMA YouTube sphere of my post-fight reaction, or during fight commentary, I should say. You know why if you know why. I'm not going to say anything else. It's a cult secret, I guess we could say. But I'm not picking Phil Rowe here. I just can't. He was still losing against Angelusa. He was getting bodied on the ground. He was getting beaten up on the feet. He was able to show heart and overcome some big shots and some dominant positions. And then Angelusa completely gassed in round 3, and Rowe put it on him. And thankfully, the Savage Dog Lock hit. Last fight, he got dominated by Seok Ko. Positional dominance. We've seen it back to back. Phil Rowe losing a lot of positions on the ground. Jean-Paul Lebosnoyani, you're getting to know him for his striking, but I'm telling you, he's gonna have the takedown threat in this fight. He's gonna have the grappling advantage in this fight, and he's gonna have good control from top position. Now, even if they are just striking, put some respect on Lebosnoyani's stand-up. He does have like a decent boxing guard and is technically sound with some jabs and a patient approach. Likes to rip some overhands, but the problem is giving up a lot of reach here against Phil Rowe. He will be, dealing with a guy that's just naturally going to have the boxing range edge over him. The problem is with Phil Rowe, doesn't use it that well. He's a tall guy that likes to fight on the inside, and he's a guy that gets suckered into close range fights where I think Lebosnoyani absolutely shines. Being shorter and I think significantly stronger physically, the close range work with clinch pressure and some, close range punches and cage control into potentially a takedown from there. I think Lebosnoyani probably is able to shut out Phil Rowe with grappling. Rowe's got decent submission defense, but he gets stuck on his back all the time. The thing with Phil Rowe is he's very comfortable from bottom position, and he loses significant amounts of fights time-wise because his refusal to force stand-up, but instead hunt submission. And he's not going to hit Lebosnoyani with a triangle or an armbar. Lebosnoyani is a smart prospect with a seemingly good fight IQ, and he's got danger on the feet, though. Not a complete shit can striking, and I'm sure he can have some moments here against Phil Rowe on the feet. It's just that Phil Rowe long jab and his two that follows is still decent. It's just the problem is with Phil Rowe, the lightning is most likely not striking twice. A young 27-year-old who knows the game on how to beat Phil Rowe because it's there. Bully him, close the distance, back him up against the cage, work to your takedowns, get on top, control position, beat him up with some ground and pound, wear on him, and embrace the motherfucking grind. And you will 30-27 Phil Rowe, as long as you don't gas. And I think that's exactly what Jean-Paul Lebosnoyani is live to do. A pretty clear, one-sided, unanimous decision is what makes the most sense to me. He's a minus 220 favorite here. Phil Rowe sitting at the plus 185 dog status. I don't think he's got it for Lebosnoyani, man. I don't. Looking at Jean-Paul Lebosnoyani, though, he is a finisher by nature, and he's got 5 submission wins. Phil Rowe's fighting career, you look at it, never been submitted before, knocked out once. His losses are decisions. Also has never won a decision. I'm not feeling crazy about Lebosnoyani stopping him. I think he gets his second decision win. Just because you finish people a lot doesn't mean you don't know how to win a decision. And I think the game plan on Lebosnoyani is going to be close the distance, which he has to, clinch him up, wear on Phil Rowe a bit, mix in some takedowns, get on top, control the position. Phil Rowe stepping in on short notice. I don't know where he's at right now. 11-6, 1-3 in his last 4 versus a prospect who I think's got some big upside. And Lebosnoyani, let me tell you, he was at 155. He was not as good. Bulking up to 170, he's jacked and physically strong. He's got a crazy wide back, which I think just equals top control. And Phil Rowe just mad skinny, dude. Mad skinny. He's going to really have to rely on Lebosnoyani getting tired, which I just don't think happens with a high-level prospect like this who's very athletic. So, yeah, we're going Jean-Paul Lebosnoyani to pitch a shutout on Phil Rowe. That makes the most sense to me. Next fight on the card, it is Ramiz Brahimaj versus Punahele Soriano. It's time to put some respect on Ramiz Brahimaj's name. Listen, guys, he's on a tear right now. 3 straight wins, destroyed Mickey Gall, destroyed Billy Ray Goff, subbed him, big underdog, and then destroyed Vanderford, underdog again. The Brahimaj side is a dog, is always a live side. Now, this one, it's even money. He's taking on Punahele Soriano. The thing is with Puna Soriano is he's got a low fight IQ. And lately, he's been relying on that wrestling at 170 pounds, aside from landing a wild clubbing hook against Uros Medic and putting him out. He's been taking down Miguel Baeza and Nikolay Veretinikov. He's not out grappling Ramiz Brahimaj. Brahimaj has evolved substantially since his early UFC career. His stand-up game's actually pretty solid. He's got power for sure. He works a nice jab and straights that follow, good overhand shots as he closes the distance. I'd say he's technically sharp. The tight high guard type approach to the fight, which I like for him. The ground game is not just positional control. Like Punahele Soriano, it's more takedowns and top control. Whereas Ramiz Brahimaj is working for the finish. Submission finish specifically. He's got very sneaky submissions. Soriano's got some power in his overhand shots and his wild hooks like you saw it against Medic, but it's been the wrestling that has saved him at 170, and I don't think the wrestling works in this fight. And I think Brahimaj could actually walk Soriano down and land the straighter, more accurate punches as Soriano's trying to rip the big shots over the top. And I could see Brahimaj bodying Soriano a bit physically, beating him up against the cage, maybe even getting on top of him and beating him up. But then I could also see a Soriano who's getting backed up, trying to panic wrestle a little bit. And then I think his neck is giving it. Like his neck is going to be there on a platter to just whoosh, get strangled and snatched up. I think Ramiz Brahimaj is going to win by submission. I feel really good about Brahimaj subbing up Punahele Soriano. You look at Puna Soriano's game, at the end of the day, been submitted once as a pro before. It was against Dustin Stoltzfus by rear naked choke. Stoltzfus was a big guy at 185. That's when Soriano was an 85er. But where I'm going with it is I think Ramiz Brahimaj's submission skill set is very live to work here. I can see him taking Soriano's back and choking him out, beating him up with a little ground and pound first, and then, Soriano's neck being available. I can see Soriano shooting sloppy and getting countered with a submission. I can see Brahimaj landing some good shots on the feet. I think Ramiz Brahimaj is going to show out here against Punahele Soriano, and I think a big win now. This is going to be 4 in a row for Brahimaj, and he needs to be taken seriously. Now, to be fair, Soriano's on a nice 3-fight win streak, but the difference is in the performances. You have, the decision and then nice knockout and then a decision against Veretinikov. Not like, wow, I want to say a fluke against Uros Medic, but it is what it is. Destroyed Mickey Gall, destroyed Billy Ray Goff, and destroyed Austin Vanderford, subbed him up. They didn't destroy him. Vanderford was still wrestling, but Vanderford's a strong wrestler, and Brahimaj was able to stop that onslaught. He's better at wrestling than Soriano. I think Brahimaj is good to go. It's minus 110. Even money doesn't make sense to me. Brahimaj should be like minus 180 to minus 200. I anticipate as the week goes on, you're going to see this line get wider. Brahimaj opened as a dog. Look at that. And then now it's already minus 110. I'm telling you guys right now, Ramiz Brahimaj is not going to be any less than minus 150 come fight night. So, if you are on the gambling side of the fights, you're interested in that type of thing. The Brahimaj side is kind of you got to go out and get it ASAP. That's why I wanted to drop this video nice and early too, so you guys can get a little head start on the lines if you're looking to attack the lines. And I look at Brahimaj too. You have to recognize it was 3 years and 11 months, ago, his fight against Gilmore win. Then he came back over 2 years off, right? Over 2 years off there. And then, Themba Garimbo able to beat him. It's way better than that. And then he came back against Gall, and now we got active Brahimaj showing levels. I'm telling you, I think Ramiz Brahimaj has finally found his foot in the UFC, and I absolutely think he's live to handle business here against Punahele Soriano. So Brahimaj for the submission. Next fight on the card, the ladies going after it is Nora Cornolle versus Jocelyn Edwards 2. They fought in France. It was Nora Cornolle's UFC debut in her home country. I kind of felt like she was gifted that decision. I thought that the grappling of Jocelyn Edwards should have been enough to win the fight. But also, it's a Jocelyn Edwards over 2 years ago, nearly 2.5 years ago. Over the past 2.5 years, Jocelyn Edwards has gotten better. I mean, even when she came back 7 months later, 8 months later, whatever, against Eileen Perez, 9 months later, I believe, she looked better. And she even had moments in the grappling against Eileen Perez, who's very good. The pick is Jocelyn Edwards to get it right this time. And she's on a 3-fight win streak. Tamara's Vidal submission, Chelsea Chandler knockout, and Priscilla Cachoeira knockout. Yes, she's beating 3 shit cans. Absolutely. I'm not talking about high-level wins for Jocelyn Edwards, but wins nonetheless. Nora Cornolle, she lost the last one to Carol Hosa. It was losing a good amount of the grappling battles against the striker. Fight before that, she was losing the grappling in round 1 against Haley Cohen, but able to sub her in round 2. And then fight before that, the Cavalcanti split decision. It was very much a tactical striker. Then you see the Melissa Mullins knockout. Listen, that was nice. It was nice to see her put away Mullins, Mrs. Smotherfest on the ground. Then the Edwards robbery there. I think Jocelyn Edwards rights the wrong this time. She's younger at 30. I think she's making pretty rapid improvements in her game. I remember when Jocelyn Edwards was on the cusp of getting cut from the UFC when, she was kind of trash. But I think she's definitely showcased some skill set improvement. Her striking is live here. I think she could definitely get some good straights through on Nora Cornolle. Cornolle has more of that traditionalist power Thai style. She does rip some wide power shots, some heavy kicks, but I see her kicks getting caught, and I think she ends up taken down. I think Jocelyn Edwards is able to get her to the floor and definitely showcase, some positional dominance here. I do have to say, I think the Jocelyn Edwards side, I don't want to say she's going to be finish happy, But I think the mindset for Jocelyn Edwards here is I want to get the finish this time. Though I think she definitely wins by decision. And she's going to win the grappling battles and make it relatively clear. I just think there is a possibility of such that Jocelyn Edwards gets to a dominant position and is able to finish Nora Cornolle by submission. So that Jocelyn Edwards subline is just something I'll be curious to look at. Wow. Minus 300. Like, that's like essentially agreeing, yeah, the first fight was a robbery and Edwards has shown improvement and Cornolle hasn't. She's a plus 250 dog. Edwards should have won when she was trash 2.5 years ago against Nora Cornolle. Now with Jocelyn Edwards, that actually looks pretty good, is going to lose in the rematch as Cornolle's 36? No. Jocelyn Edwards been on the roster a long time now, too. Jocelyn's an OG of the UFC women's bantamweight division. 7-4. Nice 3-fight win streak. She's different now. She's 30 years old now. I think we see Jocelyn Edwards show it out pretty well against Cornolle here. Feel good about the pick for a women's fight, especially. And I think decision is like, what comes first, but Edwards been finishing people. I could see her getting to that back of Cornolle and subbing her. That Edwards sub doesn't seem out of reach at all. So definitely like leaning decision initially, but feeling a hunch towards Edwards getting the sub because I think Cornolle has a trash ground game still. And I don't rate her as like a scary high level striker. I mean, she's decent enough. She's good for a women's fighter. Yeah. I mean, she's solid. But I'm just not worried about her knocking Edwards out. I think Edwards can crack Cornolle, and then taking her down and beating her up and strangling her makes too much sense. So Edwards to go out and show out is my prediction for that fight there. Let's keep going up. Next one is Alden Coria versus Louis Gurule. I'm going with Alden Coria to go out and win. He's a good prospect on the rise, man. Texas local as well. Come on. Alden Coria. Louis Gurule, he came in with some hype to the UFC because he had beaten Nick Piccinini. And Piccinini was a high-level wrestler, was expected to get a UFC contract that season. It was his second fight of the season on Contender Series. And Gurule ends up winning a competitive split decision, signed to the UFC. Ode Osbourne knocks him senseless, okay? Violently knocks him out. He did take him down earlier, but, didn't really do anything from top position. And then chin bad. And then Jesus Aguilar beats him and drops him in the fight too, cracks him with big shots. Alden Coria is a sharp boxer. Alden Coria's got quick hands. He's got good punch combinations. He's got solid 1-2s. He's got a solid left hook. Mixes up the volume of strikes well with stance switches too. Makes him hard to read. The stand-up game is calm, cool, collected, and slick. It's a striking style that I really enjoy. Alden Coria, he put it on Alessandro Costa last time. Stepped in on short notice and beat the absolute shit out of Alessandro Costa. I know the rumor mill, Costa was fighting injured and whatnot. Regardless, Alden looked sick in that fight. And he's a savage 27-year-old prospect versus a 32-year-old prospect. Gurule's a decent wrestler, Okay takedowns. Has some boxing pressure. Has some hands. Decent pop. Not big knockouts, but he can touch a little bit with the punches. He's physically strong, but he's not the fastest striker. Doesn't have the best footwork. Definitely doesn't have the best head movement. He's not very mobile. Louis Gurule, I don't want to say he's like a plank, like a Jamie Malarkey. He's not to that degree, but a little bit on the stiffer side. Doesn't have much slick rhythm, whereas Alden Coria is like the opposite of that completely. So I think Alden Coria should show him levels in the striking. And I'm going to say he keeps the finishes alive, man. He's been getting knockouts for a while. Even this no contest, initially it was a knockout win for him. And I think he keeps the finish streak going. And I think Alden Coria shows striking levels to Louis Gurule and tunes him up on the feet, uses that range advantage, uses that speed advantage, defends the takedowns of Gurule, and knocks him out here. I'm going with a flyweight getting a KO here. He's also from 4 Ounce Fight Club. Obviously, Houston, Texas natives, the savages over there, like Joshua Van, the champ in his weight class, training partner. I think that definitely the style has rubbed off on Alden a bit. So excited to see what he can do in this matchup here. I expect him to absolutely beat the shit out of Louis Gurule. Plus 228 for Gurule, minus 268 for Alden Coria. The Alden Coria side seems like the A side to me. I'm picking him by knockout. Next fight on the card, it's Ode Osbourne versus Alibi Idiris. Oh my gosh, I'm so torn on this fight. Mm. I'm panicking slightly. This is a tough pick. Sip of the drink, pop of the Zen, Ode Osbourne for the win. Why am I picking Ode Osbourne? Because I can't put together a good enough argument based on empirical evidence to say that I think Alibi Idiris wins. I don't feel I have the evidence. You can have a faith-based pick on Idiris saying, yes, I think he's going to get Osbourne down. Yes, I think he has enough power in his hands to hurt him. Yes, I think that he's physically strong enough to beat him up from top position, hold him down, and win substantial portions of the fight. I can't. That's faith-based. The evidence I have is Ode Osbourne has dangerous distance strikes. Ode Osbourne is a tricky southpaw with power in his hands. Ode Osbourne is coming off of a fight. Granted, it was at 135 against a fellow flyweight where he took it on short notice. And he had Steve Urseg in all kinds of trouble in round one and even did a decent job of defending takedowns against a very good wrestler in Urseg, who is a top 10 flyweight in the world. Alibi Idiris just got mauled by Joseph Morales, who I think is very good, but nonetheless mauled by Joseph Morales. We're going to rate him because of his wins on Ultimate Fighter. The Echeverria flying knee was nice, and Alibi Idiris has a nice flying knee, and Ode Osbourne was knocked out by a flying knee by Manel Kopp. So again, you can go faith-based and say that Alibi Idiris could do it. Maybe he does. But I'm just getting pushed towards the side of the veteran. Ode Osbourne is a difficult out for guys that aren't high-caliber grapplers. Though Alibi Idiris is a Kazakh fighter, and though he trains with Asu Amabayev, who made it look easy on the ground against Ode Osbourne, he's not that. Alibi Idiris has some takedowns, but he's not a great wrestler. Got okay single legs, can transition to the control against the cage a little bit, but he's not physically imposing. Alibi Idiris is not like a strong fighter. That's the best way to describe it. Physical strength is not one of his strong suits, and his wrestling technique is not great. And his grappling skills are not sensational. I mean, we just saw Joseph Morales destroy him on the ground and really exposing his ground game. Ode Osbourne's going to have the punch power advantage. Ode Osbourne's going to be bringing a 5-inch reach advantage. And on top of all that, you have an Ode Osbourne who is a longtime UFC fighter with tons of fights against solid fighters throughout the UFC career. 5-7 is a shit record in the UFC, true. But fought Steve Urseg and lost in a competitive fight last time. Knocked Louis Gurule out when he was undefeated. Should have had a draw against Ronaldo Rodriguez. Nearly knocked him out and submitted him in round one. Filio subs him, high-caliber jiu-jitsu. Almabayev subs him, high-caliber grappler. Charles Johnson split decision win, a top 15 fighter. Tyson Nam caught him. Tyson Nam is a dangerous power striker. Knockout of Adeshev, who was an overrated kickboxer. Vergara is a decent journeyman. Manel Kopp knocked him out with a flying knee. He's the top contender. Jerome Rivera, complete bust. And Brian Kelleher, who at one point was kind of good, caught him in the gilly in 2020. So, and that was up in weight too. At flyweight, and I guess the Ursig fight was up in weight. So if we're talking about up in weight, it negates it. But what I'm saying is, I just have my doubts about Alibi Idiris. I got a guy who's been on the roster for a long time, a long striker, who's a good athlete, who's got power in his shots. The grappling is flawed, but it is not awful for Ode Osbourne. Like, I don't want to push a narrative that Ode Osbourne is junior fucking Tafa. He's not that bad on the ground. Alibi Idiris also is not that good on the ground. Nothing that he does amazes me. I mean, you look at Alibi Idris's method of victory. He's got one sub win. He's more of a striker. And in a striking fight, it's hard to pick against a fast and explosive guy with a lot of UFC experience and a nice physicality and range advantage. I think Osbourne's the more explosive athlete. And I think he's the guy that punches harder. And unless he gets caught with like a, flying knee or a nasty elbow, I think he's getting to the target with more effectiveness here. And I think that Alibi Idiris, I don't know. I don't know what he brings to the table. I don't know how good he actually is. Azat Maxim vibes. Maybe worse than that. I just don't feel like Alibi Idiris is all that right now. Nothing is telling me he is. So I'm going to favor the side of Ode Osbourne to pull off the upset win in this fight. I just can't go away from it. It's plus 145 for Ode Osbourne, the longtime UFC vet and athletic striker. Alibi Idiris, the unproven Ultimate Fighter finalist at minus 170. I'm going to go towards the Osbourne side. I don't know. I think Idiris might be getting a little too much love, man. Morales bodied the fuck out of him. He's got a decent right hand. Does he chin Ode? I don't think he has the craziest stopping power. Had a lot of stoppages, but against guys, against Brazilians that are okay, that he's fighting over in his side of the world in kind of setup fights. Let's see how he bounces back after his first pro loss. Ode Osbourne gave Gurule the first pro loss. I think he gives Alibi Idiris his second for a pro loss here. So I'm thinking the Ode Osbourne side just feels more right to me. And I'm going to predict Ode Osbourne gets an upset win against the Ultimate Fighter finalist. Competitive. I can see it being a decision. I could see a 6-shot getting through. I'll go Osbourne for the W. Next fight is the feature prelim. Chidi Bang Bang and Njokuani versus Carlos Leal. Another tough one for me. I'm gonna go Carlos Leal. I am. I know the Salikov fight is tough. He was so badly chinned, but he was walking Salikov down reckless and got countered. And to be honest, I'll tell you guys, bro, when Salikov fights on the other side of the world, PED, okay? Performance enhancing drugs, PEDs. You saw him against Medic look melted on the scale. I did a whole segment for it on my weigh-in show, if you've seen that, before the Medic fight. Versus Leal, he looked fucking jacked and crazy. So he lost to Salikov, but also a Salikov I suspect that was on the roids, okay? And I'm not saying Leal's the most natural athlete ever. A lot of people suspect he's on roids too. But nonetheless, that Salikov loss, I'm not going to take into too much consideration here. And I'm also not going to take too much into consideration the fact that Njokuani was quickly subbed by Jake Matthews, because Jake Matthews is a tricky athlete and got a perfect moment, took his back and subbed him. It's a weird fight. Chidi Njokuani has good Muay Thai. He's got good elbows and knees on the inside. He has nice teeps to the body. He's got long reach, got good straight shots, but Leal is a good in-your-face bruiser. Leal's got power in close range. Leal's got good dirty boxing on the inside. Leal brings a threat of potentially getting this fight to the ground where I think he could find success. I could see Njokuani catching him with a nasty clinch strike and putting that Leal chin to the test again, but it hadn't failed him prior to the Salikov fight. I don't believe he was ever knocked out before that. No, that was it. And Leal is known for breaking people and bullying you with big shots. He should have won that Renat Fakhretdinov fight. He was robbed of a decision. And then Alex Morono, he gets out of there standing TKO round 1 and landed some big shots on him. Where was that ref when we needed him for the Donchenko fight? My God. I look at Chidi Bang Bang at 170, and I'm like, all right, he's 37. He spoke about this before. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but he talked about how hard it is for him to make the weight, and it's like really, not a thing that he enjoys. 185, he's a lot more comfortable. Struggles at this weight class, and maybe that's why he was ran over by Jake Matthews. He had a bad rehydration. I mean, you look at Chidi Njokuani's fighting career, missed weight against Elizio Zaleski, and he got a knockout. But look, when he makes weight at 170 pounds in the UFC, he's getting submitted by Jake Matthews in round 1. He wins a decision against a Jared Gooden. Sorry, Jared Gooden. I know you retired for fighting. Jared Gooden, who's not that good, but, it's Jared Gooden. The Reese McKee fight wasn't a split decision. He definitely won. But, wins a decision against McKee. At 185, I think he's better. That's really where I'm going with it. I don't know, man. This is a guy that also, he's missed weight at 185 before. This 170 cut and at 37 is not easy on the body of Njokuani. I just feel like the bruiser of Carlos Leal ripping shots on the inside. I think he could test that chin of Njokuani. I think he could best that chin of Njokuani. I think he could potentially get him down. I think he could win the clinch battle and the takedown battle. I'm thinking Carlos Leal is able to beat him. I feel like Leal's got some power. Leal's coming in motivated after this tough L against Salikov. Granted, maybe the chin's gone. It could be. But I feel like Leal could stop Njokuani and walk through some of his elbows and then catch him with clobbing shots over the top, kind of like Oleg Jachuk, and potentially put Njokuani away. I don't know. I like Njokuani at 85 better. I think he's a lot more dangerous. At 70, it definitely stifles his game a bit. I've been a Chidi Bang Bang fan for a long time. If you followed the channel, you know. I've always liked Chidi Bang Bang, and I've picked him a lot over the years. I just think Leal probably best him here, and I have to go with that initial instinct of Leal and not be swayed on, he landed that nice knee against Zaleski, but Zaleski was old, and he missed weight. Minus 185 Leal, plus 160 Njokuani. I will ponder this question to you. I don't think they're going to have any props, but I'll ask this question to you. What do you guys think the odds are that we see Njokuani miss weight? That we see Njokuani come in over and do a calculated weight miss to have an extra 2-3 pounds on Carlos Leal fight and then bulk up a little quicker? I won't be shocked if Njokuani comes in at 173. I won't. His weight cut is not easy for him, and it might be a calculated miss, especially when dealing with a guy who's known for physicality. So something to watch for on that weigh-in show, and we'll talk about it as we get there. But right now, I do think Carlos Leal can walk through fire against Njokuani and potentially hurt him, and maybe even stop him with punches. I think KO or decision kind of makes most sense here for the Carlos Leal side. You look at his game, it's knockouts or decisions. Very rarely does he submit people. And I think he could end up hurting Njokuani here. Maybe he clubs and subs him. Maybe he wins, a gritty decision. But I think Leal's going to get it in his face and make it a dirty fight. And if it's an Njokuani who makes weight, I think Leal is very live for the finish. Now, if he misses weight, Njokuani with a little extra weight on Leal, I do think he's live. So, yeah, we'll talk about it post-weigh-in some more. But I'm going to pick, in a fair fight, Carlos Leal to get it. Main card opener. Make sure you guys smash that like button through the channel. Make sure you subscribe it up. We got Zach Reese versus Michel Pereira. Ooh. I got to go with Zach Reese, which it's one of those picks where I totally can see Michel Pereira clobbering him with shots, but I don't know with Michel Pereira. It's like mentally, I don't know if he's there. You look at his middleweight wins, they're all quick wins. So let's say Zach Reese doesn't get knocked out in 3 minutes. Michel Pereira's cardio looked terrible, terrible when he fought against the side of Abus Magomedov. And then fight before that, got dog walked by Anthony Hernandez. And then Kyle Dawkins knocked him out in 1 punch. I don't know where Michel Pereira is necessarily at right now. And I don't think Zach Reese is on the cusp of contention, but it's like feeling like a crossroads fight. I know Michel Pereira is listed at 32, but I don't trust these damn Brazilian birth certificates sometime. We know with Jose Aldo. So could he really be 36? Because he's showing the slowdown, I feel like, over recent fights. And it's like from Michel Pereira, if he doesn't stop you early, it falls apart. And say what you want about Zach Reese. I know Azamat Bakoyev destroyed him on the ground, and I know that he was slammed by Cody Brundage. I get it. And I know that, Zach Reese is not the cream of the crop at all. He could sell in this fight, but I don't know. I got a bad feeling with Michel Pereira. I could see Zach Reese's hand speed being a factor. He showed a lot of toughness with Jackson McVeigh ripping him with elbows. It's one of those picks where you guys are going to tell me, bro, Zach Reese is mid as fuck. How you picking Zach Reese? Listen, from distance, he's got good body kicks. He does have pretty good boxing. He does have a submission threat on the ground. He's big. He's 6'4" with a 77-inch reach. Nice size advantage on Michel Pereira. And if Pereira doesn't get off to a great start and get a stoppage like he was able to do when he was on this middleweight tear to guys like Ihor Potieria, Mikhail Jacek, and Andre Petroski, how does it go a little later on? I mean, at middleweight, it's, he's getting people out of there or he's getting done dirty. I have to favor the side of the Zach Reese upside in this matchup, even though he's listed as less than a year younger. I don't know with Michel Pereira, man. 36 makes a lot more sense than 32. And I could see Zach Reese putting hands on him. I could see Zach Reese getting a tired Pereira's back and choking him out. I don't know how much Michel Pereira is going to want it when it gets tough. Michel Pereira's style really looks good when it's, an easy fight. When he's able to buzzsaw right through you, when he's hitting you with a flying shot, and hitting you with a big punch, taking you back and choking you out, a flying knee in you, or just, doing chaotic techniques and stopping you early. Michel Pereira is always live for that sub 1 minute finish or sub 2 minute finish, I'll even say, to give a little extra time against a guy that's more of the mid caliber. But I don't know if Zach Reese survives. Let's say Pereira explodes on him and catches him with some shots, but Zach Reese is able to stay safe and avoid getting knocked out here in the first, round and even first half a round. What does Michel Pereira look like afterwards if Zach Reese starts connecting with clean shots to the face and Zach Reese wears on him with a nice knee to the body? Zach Reese got good body knees. Nice elbow on the inside from Zach Reese. A takedown from Zach Reese. Does Michel Pereira wilt Maybe. And I'm going to go towards Zach Reese to survive the early chaos and be live to pull off a stoppage here against Pereira. I mean, granted, he could end up out grappling Pereira in rounds 2 and 3 and winning a decision. That wouldn't blow my mind either, I'll tell you. Michel Pereira could land some big shots round 1, and then towards the end of the round, Zach Reese hits the takedown, and then into round 2, Pereira's tired, and then Reese is just grapple fucking him, getting on top and holding, throwing some ground and pound, sitting in half guard. Like, there is a real possibility that Zach Reese is able to grapple smash Michel Pereira in this fight. And I'm going to favor the prospect in Zach Reese over the longtime veteran who's evidently flawed, Michel Pereira, especially with the first round knockout loss last time. Zach Reese plus 125, opened up at plus 130, so odds sitting around the same side. Michel Pereira minus 145 as the favorite in the spot. I'm just feeling like, I don't know, I'm teetering towards the Zach Reese side right now. I can't really trust in Michel Pereira. Like, sure, he could land a clobbering shot and just knock Reese out. He could. I don't know. It could happen. But then what happens if it doesn't? Michel Pereira is not a guy you can rely on in a 3-round fight. If you told me this fight is guaranteed to go into the 3rd round, I got to say Zach Reese is now a minus 250 favorite in a fight that goes longer. In a fight that ends in round 1, yeah, it's probably Michel Pereira, right? But maybe Zach Reese catches him. We saw Pereira knocked out last time. I think Zach Reese can show out in this one, man. I do. I really think so. I don't know. I just been having this feeling about Michel Pereira after that damn Dawkins fight. And then I'm watching, I don't know if you guys have seen him sparring with Sean Strickland. And it's like, oh, but it's Sean Strickland. I know, but it's like, it's just fucking wild bullshit. They're just slugging at each other. I like the Zach Reese side to do more. Also, switch hitter Zach Reese. I could see him catching Pereira from southpaw. So I'm going to go Zach Reese to pull off the upset against Pereira in this fight. So the Jacobe Smith and Seok Ko fight is seemingly canceled now, or it is canceled. And they're looking for a new opponent for Jacobe Smith, but they don't have one yet. When they have one, of course, I'll update you guys. I don't know if he'll get one. It's not a guarantee. They want to find one. We'll see if somebody shows up. If somebody pulls a Nico Price and just jumps in and takes it like Nico did against Veretinikov last week. Maybe it's Nikolay Veretinikov, Jacobe Smith. He got a quick knockout. He wants to make a little extra check. Got 2 weeks. Fuck it. Less than 2 weeks now, but yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea. Maybe that's it. So we'll see what happens with Jacobe Smith if they end up finding an opponent. But yes, this co-fight, off. Next fight on the card, Sergey Spivak versus Ante Delija. I'm going with Ante Delija to beat Sergey Spivak. I like Delija's explosiveness, and I like his striking a lot more. Delija's got good punch blitzes, like the straight shots in range, and he's just ripping big shots and just kind of trapping you against the cage and just putting together, you know, I'd say some serious impact power strikes. And then you look at Sergey Spivak, he's got more of the smother grapple style, cage control, decent at using his weight and, you know, smothering opponents up, and solid from top position and controls the position well, has a decent jiu-jitsu game. His striking is okay. There's not a power threat. The problem is Sergey Spivak doesn't hit hard. Sergey Spivak is not a good puncher. He's more of just pressure into the clinch style. So for a guy that is, you know, mostly a striker, that gives them woes. But Ante Delija is very defensively sound in grappling, and he's actually very offensively skilled in grappling as well with a good takedown game. With an obvious strike and power speed advantage in this fight, I think it's way too much to overlook. The Waldo fight, Delija obviously knocked out badly, but let's not act like Delija wasn't doing okay, even pressing Waldo up and exploding on him with some shots, and then obviously caught him with the eye poke, thinking he gets the first round knockout, fight resets, and he gets knocked out. The unfortunate part of the game. He had the complete adrenaline drop after thinking he had won a fight by first round KO to then having to reset and go again. Not going to obsess too much about that fight. Fight before, he made it look easy against Marcin Tybura, destroyed Marcin Tybura. And Sergey Spivak is a guy that doesn't have great head movement, and he's very hittable with straight shots. And when I don't see a big grappling advantage for Spivak, and he's forced into a striking fight, I have to favor a guy who's quick on the feet with power in his hands to have a real chance to explode on him. We saw Jailton Almeida rock Sergey Spivak and finish him in the first round with ground and pound, destroy him on the ground. I think Ante Delija is able to handle business in a big way here against Sergey Spivak. Spivak also 2-fight losing streak, 1-3 across the last 4 fights. The losses are obviously Waldo, who's now a top contender and, has the win over Delija. And then, Jailton Almeida, who got kind of brutally exposed against Rivzan Kuniev last card, who I predicted would get exposed in that fight. And then the win against Marcin Tybura was completely washed, as did Delija. And then, granted, he was taken down. And then Cyril Gane knocked him out. Shitload of eye pokes from Gane, to be fair. The Derek Lewis win. Derek Lewis is a bankrupt grappler. I feel like Ante Delia's got a real chance to walk through Spivak without much of a striking threat. I don't see Spivak grapple fucking Delija, and I think Delia's going to be confident to unload thunderous combinations in close range, and I think Spivak, he hates getting hit. Spivak does not respond well to clean shots. He turtles up, and I think Delija is going to stop him. So I'm going to go Delija by knockout in this fight. I think he's able to rip some big punches, put it together, and get a nice W here. He's a -163 favorite. I do think he handles business, and Delija is now on the cusp of a big fight. Obviously, the Waldo fight, unfortunate outcome, but he's still in the mix of the top guys. Spivak +143 is a dog. I don't think they're going to have props again, same as like the other ones. Nope, they don't. Nope, they do. Over or under 1.5. I could see this fight being under 1.5 because Delia's a pretty quick starter and he's got fast hands for a heavyweight. And I'll credit that to him being, less than 240 pounds. He'll be giving up some weight, but he does have good physical strength. It's not like he's a weak fighter. And what he lacks in the department of weight, he makes up for with big power. So, and big speed, really, I'd say. Ante Delija is more of like the speed and the power together, and he's able to land multiple big shots. And I just think Spivak's going to be uncomfortable with that type of approach. And I think Ante Delia's striking is going to look good here. And I'm going to pick him to knock Sergey Spivak out in this fight. Next fight on the card, we got Dan Ige versus Melquizael Costa. I have to go with Melquizael Costa. I've been on the Melquizael side for a lot of fights on the ride up. The Morgan Charrier knockout, the Arosa W, the C-Rod win. He obviously got a nice submission against Andre Fili, beat Norton Becca. He's on fire right now. And he's not the same Melky Costa from the earlier run. It's a Melky Costa that's really found himself. And I assume that his confidence is crazy high after about 2 months ago, he lands the first round high kick knockout of a guy in Morgan Charrier. Listen, I look at the striking, and it's a battle of range. Make no mistake about it. Dan Ige is an in-the-pocket boxing specialist. He has very good hooks to the body and head. He's explosive with punches, and if he's able to get into close range and rip multiple shots, they can do immense damage. He is comfortable switching stances as well, and I would say Dan Ige is an underrated wrestler. He has a decent takedown game. Now, the problem is Dan Ige does not offer a submission threat, nor does he offer much of a ground and pound threat. It's more of a takedown, secure position, and then fighter will get back up to the feet, most likely. On the other side, Melquizael Costa is a mid and long range specialist in striking, but in the close range, he does have the X factor of an ability to strike well in the clinch. Knees to the body, elbows on the inside. Melquizael Costa has good close range Thai boxing, okay? Yes, he doesn't have the same in-the-pocket boxing ability as Dan Ige. I favor Dan Ige in a, back and forth in-the-pocket firefight in that one, yeah. But I don't see Melky Costa is letting that happen. I mean, if they get close, I see Melky clinching. I could potentially see Melky going for the body lock takedowns and even hitting some. Melky with good cage work. Melky with good pressure against the cage. Melky with good body knees and elbows. Southpaw as well, which I think is interesting. Good straight shots, good teeps to the body. Melky Costa is very fast, and he's got incredibly dangerous head kicks. He rocked Juliana Rosa with one, knocked out Morgan Charrier with one last time. And the other element to Melky Costa, why I like him here, is he not only has a decent grappling game, he has a very live submission threat that he brings to the fight. Dan Ige's one pathway to win is really with his hands and some leg kicks, mixing in a takedown. Whereas Melquizael Costa is live with the punches from range. He's live with the kicks. He's live with the knees. He's live with the elbows. He's live with the submissions. He has more tools in the arsenal. He's a master of the 8 limbs versus, I'll give Dan Ige 4. I'll say he's got decent kicks to the legs and obviously good boxing. But it's not a boxing match. I think that Melquizael Costa just offers more here. And I think being a dangerous southpaw with a good management of range and a good explosive ability on the inside, and especially being 29, entering his prime and showing consistent improvements as opposed to his opponent, Dan Ige, 1-3 in his last 4. Always a dog. Dan Ige's tough. He's able to beat Sean Woodson with a nice comeback there, put some shots together. Sean Woodson's an okay boxer, but to be fair, he, was dealing with a guy that had crazy reach and was able to walk him down and get on the inside and rock him, right? But Sean Woodson doesn't offer as much of the Muay Thai threat. There's no clinch game. There is, I guess you could say, the knees, but not really to the degree of Melky. Not body knees like that. Not elbows in close like that. Sean Woodson is more of distance boxing with some kicks. And then the last fight, Patricio Pitbull, obviously able to win some striking exchanges, take him down a couple of times and outwork him. Fight before that, Lerone Murphy outworks him. Granted, landed takedowns, look good on mega short notice against Diego Lopez, lost, of course. And then the win against Andre Fili by knockout was sick. They both have quick wins against Andre Fili. I think Melky Costa is going to end up outworking Dan Ige. And I think he's live to get this on the judges' scorecards. I'm going to go Melky by decision. More moments in the fight. I do think that third round could be scary because we've seen Melky Costa slow a tad in round number 3. And we could definitely see Dan Ige finding some success in that third round. But ultimately, I truly feel as though Melquizael Costa is much more likely to do more damage throughout more time in the fight. And I think that is the ultimate difference maker. And with the threat of a potential submission, not that Dan Ige is a guy getting subbed. He's never been submitted, never been knocked out. Dan Ige is the definition of toughness and grit. And that third round for Dan Ige is where, he could make his money really and pull off a badass performance. It needs to be round 3. But I think Melky Costa is going to be able to secure the first and second, and at the very worst, still survive that third round, even if he is to lose that third round. So I'm going to say Melky Costa by decision in this one, and what I think is going to be a fun fight. Minus 220 for Melky Costa, plus 185 for Dan Ige. I got to say, respect the durability of Ige. I do. Over 2.5, minus 150, under 2.5, plus 130. I favor the fight going into the third round. I favor the fight probably going distance. Not that Melky couldn't end up stopping Dan Ige, but Melky's been a good decision winner. He got the knockout here against Charrier, but it was decision. Got the sub against Fili and the sub there against Nordebeke. So, 2 decision wins across the last 5, which 3 finishes and 1 knockout to his credit. But Chin and Dan Ige, it's going to have to be like a perfectly timed high kick, which is not impossible for Melky Costa, who has good dexterity. And, is there a chance of a sub? Dan Ige he's so OG is the best way to say it. He's been around for a long time. He's got a ton of experience in the UFC. I just see him being defensively sound enough to survive some bad positions. Melky Costa able to win the fight, but Dan Ige able to go the distance. That's going to be my prediction here. Next fight on the card, co-main event, Jeff Neal versus Uros Medic. I think Jeff Neal knocks him out. Uros Medic is coming off of a sensational first-round knockout, a quick one against Muslim Salikov. And Muslim Salikov was doing pretty well for an OG in his career. But I mentioned it already earlier in the video. Muslim Salikov was most likely on performance-enhancing drugs in the Middle East and other parts of, the other side of the world. Versus come stateside, he looked like a melted fighter, like a melted ice cream cone. And Uros Medic knocks him out, as he should. Uros Medic is a dangerous southpaw kickboxer. Uros Medic has snapping kicks to the body, dangerous straight punches. And listen, Uros Medic is a good fighter. Uros Medic is solid everywhere. But ultimately, you have a guy in Jeff Neal who has fought some of the best fighters in the world and put up good efforts. The most recent fight, Carlos Prates destroyed him. Carlos Prates is a destroyer of worlds. Fight before, destroys RDA, ends up injuring him, but he was cracking him with punches. Fight before that, split decision with Ian Gary. Force Ian Gary to stay on that bicycle move and avoid the exchanges. Made it very competitive against Ian Gary, who's now a top contender in the weight class. Gave Shavkat Rakhmonov pretty much all he could handle and hit him with big shots. And Shavkat, obviously out for a long time and unranked now, still amongst the guys that are considered better in the welterweight division, amongst the top 5. And then fight before that, gave Vicente Luque a legitimate brain bleed. Legit. Jeff Neal has serious power in his hands. And he has good boxing and good punch combinations. And he has underrated kicks, too. He knocked out Mike Perry with a nasty high kick back in the day. I think that Jeff Neal is really live to test the Uros Medic chin. He knocked out Gilbert Urbina, but he was dropped in the opening sequence of the fight. He was knocked out by a wild punch against Punahele Soriano. Sick knockout against the aging Tim Means. Outdogged by Mitabek Orabai on the ground, right? Jalen Turner able to sub him up. Like, he's got some decent W's. Salikov, aging fighter. Urbina, low rank. Tim Means, aging fighter. Semmelsberger, I think, fallen from grace at the time. Morales, overrated kickboxer, was good at one point. Elon Cruz, guy that never really did much in the UFC. Versus a guy that, has fought high-level competition throughout. Ponzinibbio win. Vicente Luque win. RDA win. Mike Perry win. Prime Nico Price win. Fucked Bilal up. Come on, man. It's Jeff Neal's time to shine. I think it's Jeff Neal back on track. I know he's 35, but it doesn't mean it's over when a fighter hits 35. I think that Jeff Neal is going to have to deal with some heavy kicks from Medic from distance, but as soon as he starts to find his range with those punches, I think Uros Medic's chin is just way too much of a red flag. It's a problem. And Jeff Neal hits really fucking hard. And I think Jeff Neal is very live to deliver some serious power head strikes to Uros Medic. And I'm going to say Jeff Neal ends up putting Uros Medic out cold here. I think he connects with some big shots and he knocks him out with a hook. Uros Medic, sharp from range and good timing, but I just cannot pick a Uros Medic in good faith to beat Jeff Neal as good as he had looked in losses to elite competition outside of the Prates fight. But then again, Prates is a fucking monster and hits a spinning elbow knockout. Prates is terrifying. It's different, Carlos Prates is in that top 6 right now. Uros Medic is still of the unranked. He's a talented fighter, the sharp kickboxer. He's very fast from the outside. One of the best fighters from Alaska of all time, him and Jared Cannonier. But I think Jeff Neal should go out and show out in this spot. Looking at the lines, let's see where they're at here. Are they up to date? Jeff Neal is minus 185. Uros Medic is plus 160. I think Jeff Neal wins by knockout. I don't think Uros Medic can survive the power. Under 1.5 at minus 165. I definitely like under 2.5. It could be under 1.5, but to be fair to both men, I mean, it could be a tactical approach, with both guys having capable striking games. There's a respect on both sides for one another. Might not just be an absolute blitz by either guy, Jeff Neal, notable southpaw stance. On the side of Uros Medic, I feel like you have to rate it too. It's kind of cool. It's southpaw. I'm curious how that looks for Medic. He's giving up some reach. I kind of think Jeff Neal could find that left. I feel like Jeff Neal could find a nice left over the top and hurt Uros Medic, or even catch him with a check right hook as they enter range. And I think Uros Medic is just most likely dropped and looking up at the lights come fight day. So I'm going to favor the Jeff Neal's power side, the higher level experience, and I think he's still got some fight left in him. Medic, he kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Vicente Luque in some ways. And obviously, what Jeff Neal did to him. I'm not saying that comparison is necessarily 100% accurate, but I don't know, good striking from range. Maybe Medic a little bit more fluid from distance motion, but a lesser ground game. Yeah, I think Jeff Neal is able to handle, man. He shouldn't lose to Uros Medic here. If Medic ends up shocking him, like, that's a big upset, especially if he knocks him out. Medic goes from getting knocked out by Puna Soriano to now breaking into the top 15 and becomes like a dark horse striker of this damn UFC welterweight division. I just don't think it happens. I think Jeff Neal is able to knock Uros Medic unconscious here, and I'm going to favor his power. Next fight brings us to the main event. Make sure you guys smash the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Be sure to hype the video as well. It's Sean Strickland versus Anthony Hernandez. I'm going with the fluffy side of Anthony Hernandez. I think that he can outdog Sean Strickland. Everything Strickland talks about, to the death, the man dance, we're going after it. That's what Anthony Hernandez is. He has found a fighter that is going to bring that to him. Anthony Hernandez is a very boxing pressure-based striker with, I would say, deceptively good low kicks as well. Like, Anthony Hernandez attacks that lead leg nicely. And he's got good straight punches, does have power in his hands. He's got a nice left hook. He's got good forward pressure, kind of patiently crowds his opponents with forward pressure and finding the punches. And the reason he's able to walk people down well is because he refuses to take a step back, but also because of the threat of the grappling, alongside of a very solid boxing setup that he has. And it's kind of Mexican style in a way, but he works good straight punches. And like you would think with Anthony Hernandez, people that don't know him as well, that he would fall into the trap of getting crazy and just blitzing for stoppages. He doesn't. He just breaks you over time. He connects with punches and just keeps on walking you down, takes you down. You try to get back up. Okay, he takes you back. You get up. All right, he keeps walking you down. And it's rinse, repeat. And he just totally drains the gas tank bar. He's got insane cardio. He does not stop. Kind of, like a Dricus du Plessis, but I'd say sharper in the striking technique and more proficient with the grappling skills. On the opposite side, Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland rocks the Philly shell. He's got a good volume boxing attack. He's got a nice use of the 1-2s down the center line. He's got decent teeps to the body and leg kicks, right? But when you back Sean Strickland up, you really stifle a lot of his game because he is a guy that likes to crowd opponents. He likes to be the one controlling the pace of the man dance, as he'll call it. Anthony Hernandez is not going to back up here against Sean Strickland. I think he's going to force Sean Strickland backwards, and I think the team must be doing a lot of study on the Dricus du Plessis fight, the most recent one especially. Both of them against du Plessis, but specifically that most recent one, where Sean Strickland was just completely outworked. He was forced on the back foot a lot. He was outstruck. His nose was busted up. He was caught with straight punches, some shots over the top. The leg was chopped a bit. I think Hernandez can follow suit to that performance. And what Hernandez brings that du Plessis doesn't necessarily is the high-level jiu-jitsu. Not that du Plessis doesn't have high-level jiu-jitsu, but the legitimate threat of the submission. I could see Hernandez taking Strickland down, and then I can see Hernandez being slick on the mat. He's more slick on the mat to take the back. He's live to take the back of Sean Strickland. And he works some ground and pound. I can see Sean Strickland taken down against the cage, annoyed, getting hit with shots by Hernandez. He's on the backside position as he's looking to work back up. Then, he does get back up. And still, Hernandez in his face, on it, pressing him up against the cage, landing shots. They separate, and it's more pressure from Hernandez. And Strickland's power, which I think is a detriment here. He doesn't have enough of it to make Hernandez respect him. Sean Strickland is a good volume puncher, but he's never been a one-punch knockout striker, okay? He's a guy that puts a lot of shots together. Hernandez does not have chin woes. Hernandez is going to be able to walk through Strickland's shot. And I think Hernandez is going to be connecting cleaner and straighter and more effectively, especially being the one controlling the pace of the fight, winning the battle of real estate, and bringing the forward pressure. Strickland's going to end up getting busted up again, kind of like he did against du Plessis last time. Then I think Hernandez, when the time is right, is going to mix in takedowns. Strickland normally very good at takedown defense, but I do think he'll get taken down in this fight. And sure, he might pop back up to the feet, and sure, he probably is able to fight out of, a good amount of sub attempts that aren't too deep. But I could see eventually Hernandez on that back and ending up in the perfect sequence into a rear naked choke. A possibility of Hernandez getting the front headlock position, fighting for a power ghillie, maybe even a standing ghillie against the cage. I really think that Hernandez is live to outdog Sean Strickland, technically break him apart, wear him down, and potentially pull off the finish. But I respect Strickland's legendary durability. He's not an easy guy to put away. He's a guy that survives. He's not a guy that breaks. He's a guy that normally is breaking people. But in this matchup, I think Hernandez is the winner of the battle of pressure. And everything is about the pressure in this fight. The man going backwards is the man losing. And I think it's going to be Sean Strickland going backwards a lot here. And with the threat of grappling in the fight, it's going to limit Sean Strickland's effective offense with the hands, and it's going to then inflate what you'll see of the skills of Hernandez's boxing, able to move forward, and then time the takedowns. Strickland on his back, Hernandez with some ground and pound. I see Strickland busted up and frustrated at the end of this. I feel like Hernandez by decision makes a lot of sense, but don't get it twisted. As good as Strickland is defensively at grappling, Hernandez is fast with transitions on the mat. And if you wear Strickland down for 3.5 rounds, come round 4, there's a possibility that Hernandez is getting the back and getting under the neck of a tired Sean Strickland here. I'm going Hernandez for the win. Odds for Hernandez, he's a bit of a favorite. He's expected to win. -250 for Hernandez with Strickland at +210 as the underdog here. I really think Hernandez is going to dog walk him. What are the over-under lines here? Over 4.5 minus 150. I feel like we're very live to go over 2.5, but there's a chance that Hernandez wins by sub, man. We don't have any of those sub lines out yet. There's a real possibility Hernandez does break him down and stop him by submission. Knocking Strickland out, hard to do. Hernandez is not like a big knockout puncher. Hernandez, again, it's the volume. It's the accumulation of damage like Strickland does, but I think he's better at it. I think he's better at it, especially against the Strickland that we've seen lose 2 out of his past 3. And let's keep it honest. He was, pretty mid against Paulo Costa. Granted, Costa's pretty good, but it was not a great performance by him. One kind of a snooze fest, jab fest decision. And Paulo Costa doesn't bring the threat of volume. He has to worry about potentially fatiguing. He doesn't have much of a grappling threat. Wasn't on an 8-fight win streak. Anthony Hernandez is absolutely tearing it up right now. 8 wins in a row for Anthony Hernandez. 32 years old, in his prime, on fire. Versus a Strickland who's lost 2 out of the past 3. Lost to Dricus du Plessis both of those times. Outdogged badly against du Plessis last time. And was more low volume and low confidence than I had ever seen from Sean Strickland. And I think that carries over into this fight, which I would argue maybe stylistically a more difficult matchup. Similarities towards the breaking style of du Plessis and the breaking style of Hernandez, but different that Hernandez is faster with grappling transitions and more of a threat with chokes here. Strickland could be live to be submitted. I think submission is a possibility for Hernandez. Like I said, 4th round is really possible. A tired Sean Strickland backed up. Not that Strickland is exhausted like a Roman Delija, but he's dog walked. He's beaten on. He's doubting himself a bit. And then his back is taken, and Hernandez is fast to the neck and able to lock it in. I don't think, though Strickland has never been submitted, does not mean he is unsubmittable. And I do think there's a possibility that a Hernandez riding 8 wins in a row could be the first guy to win by submission against Sean Strickland. You look at his career, the finished losses, 2 finished losses. Alex Pereira, violent knockout, and early in the run against Elizio Zaleski, down in weight at 170 back in 2018. I'm not thinking of Hernandez chinning, I think it's a Hernandez volume, damage accumulation into a potential 4th round submission, but obviously decision is live. I think submission or decision makes the most sense with the possibility of a later stage Hernandez sub or a pretty lopsided decision. I could see maybe Strickland finding some shots round 1, but I really worry about him just getting put on that back foot a lot. And then Hernandez getting good shots through the guard and then mixing in some takedowns. I'm really excited to see the legendary takedown defense of Sean Strickland being put to the truest of test here against Anthony Hernandez, who absolutely breaks people. It's different, man. What he did to Roman Delija, he destroyed him. And Delija's a good grappler. Able to outwork Brendan Allen in the grappling. And Brendan Allen's on fire right now. Brendan Allen is very good. Brendan Allen got stopped by Sean Strickland early in his fighting career, but it's a different Brendan Allen now. Hernandez has beaten him twice. And Allen, arguably, outside of Hernandez, the best grappler at 185, in the running at the very least. Michel Pereira broke him with grappling, dominated the fight, training partner of Strickland, submits Kopylov, breaks Edmund Shabazian. Hernandez is going to walk through Strickland shots, and he's going to throw his own. Going to land good strikes, straight shots aplenty, forward pressure aplenty, close range elbows, into the body lock, into the takedown threat, into the takedown, into some top control. He's going to wear on Sean Strickland's gas tank. Abus Magomedov had big success taking Strickland down early in their fight, completely gassed, right? Completely gassed out and then stopped round number 2. Anthony Hernandez is not going to stop. And a tired Sean Strickland taken down by Hernandez later in the fight with his back taken, I think is live to be submitted. So that Hernandez sub is something to really look out for here. I'm going to pick Anthony Hernandez in this UFC Houston main event to beat Sean Strickland. And I think he becomes the top contender. And I'd say the only matchup at this point, obviously there's a Mavov, but Khamzat and Mavov don't seem to want to fight each other, becomes the matchup for Khamzat though, because of the what if factor with the submission threat. At least there's some potential pathway. Not that Khamzat isn't a 3-1 favorite. He will be. But I do think Hernandez poses an interesting puzzle for the dominant wrestler in Khamzat versus, if Strickland were to pull this off, I think it's a clear pathway for a Dricus du Plessis type fight for the side of Khamzat with dominance from top position throughout the entire thing. The pick is going to be Hernandez. He's going to outdog Sean Strickland here, and I think he's going to show him levels in the savagery and win the battle of the man dance. So Hernandez to get it done is my main event prediction. And those are the picks for UFC Houston. I hope you guys enjoyed them nice and early. If there's any changes to the card, I'll be sure to do the updated picks video next Sunday. I'll be live throughout the week on the channel doing news videos, etc., etc. So make sure you guys tune in, keep it locked in with me. The content flow is not stopping, even though we got no UFC. Smash the likes here. Subscribe if you're new. Turn on the post notifications too. Big W in the comments if you got nothing to say, but I want to know your picks. Main event prediction. Who you got? Strickland Hernandez. Think Jeff Neal walks through Euros Medic like I do? What about Melky Costa? Does he show out? You think Delija is dog walking Spivak like I do? You agree with some of the underdog takes too? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear from you guys. And be sure to hype the video as well. I love you all. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.